All right, we are now joined by the winner of tonight's NASCAR Cup Series race at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, Denny Hamlin, driver of the number 11 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota. If you have a question for Denny, please raise your hand. We'll get a wireless microphone to you. We'll go ahead and start up with Kelly and then Jeff, and we'll make our way around the room.
Kelly, CrandallRacer.com. Denny, I'm just curious because when we look at Phoenix, and I know it's a couple weeks away, but when we look at Phoenix, Joe Gibbs Racing in the spring versus Joe Gibbs Racing in the fall, you've mentioned it before when it comes to that championship race, that's been the Achilles heel, that racetrack. Why will this year be different? What can Chris Gale do with maybe his fresh perspective that's going to give you a better shot than when we last saw you in the championship four?
I mean, I don't know why this would be different. I mean, I don't think that I've been the champ for in the next gen era. So before it, I don't have that answer. I can't sit here and give you, false promises and things like that. I'm just gonna try as hard as I can, and maybe I can get lucky.
You're going to the sim all day, every day.
We'll go to Jeff.
Denny, there's been some references made to your dad the last few weeks and wanting to win it for him and dedicate stuff to him. Can you care to elaborate on what might be going on with him?
Yeah, just not doing well, not feeling well, and he's he's the one that got me into racing, and took me to a racetrack when I was 5, and then made all the sacrifices financially to keep me going. They sold everything they had, and we almost lost our house a couple times, and just try to keep it all going. And I'm glad he was able to see 60. That was super important to me.
So is that where the emotion that we saw was coming from, or was it just getting the milestone 60, or the way this all happened? Where was the emotion?
Absolutely all of it. I mean, I don't know if I could have scripted it better. I don't know, like a win at Talladega for 60, it would still be awesome, but not like this, not in the fashion that I had to do it in those last 10 laps. And this race, I talked about it before the weekend started, just how important this race was, right? I thought this was the most important. And all of it, my friends all weekend, we're getting 60 this weekend. And I guess we could, so I don't know. All of it, just putting all the factors. I just can't imagine there's a win bigger for me than this one. Just with all, with the family, with the significance of it, now being back on top for most wins in the season, punching the ticket to the 4, it's just all of it, the fashion in which the last 10 laps played out, all the above is why I think this means the most.
How old is that?
75.
We'll come to Zach next and then make our way around with Jonathan, Bob, and Holly.
Zach Sterniello, NASCAR.com. Denny, this race seemed like a real microcosm of your season to some extent because you needed to unlock another level there in those last late laps to really work your way past Larson and then get by Briscoe. As a whole, you look at the last few years in this next-gen car, you've got 3 wins, 2 wins. You're at 6 now this year alone. What do you feel like has clicked for you this year in particular that wasn't clicking previously?
I don't know. I mean, in every off season, I try to put focus on getting better in 1 or 2 areas. Whatever the glaring thing is that is holding me back from winning more races, I try to focus on that, improving that, whatever that is. And so, I don't know. I think that this is as strong as JGR's cars have been in some time. I think that's a factor. I think Toyota is doing a fantastic job with everything they bring to the table. I think that it's just, the cars are as good and as fast as they've ever been. I feel as good and as fast as I've ever been. I mean, I never would have imagined winning a pole at Vegas. I mean, this is just not in my wheelhouse of trying to go out there and get fast for one lap. I've never been a driver that's been fast for one lap, but I noticed that it was something that could improve my chances of winning week in, week out, was focus on getting better in that part of the racing. And so, it just, I don't even know what your question is. I'm just rambling at this point, but it's things are going well. And Chris Gale's bringing obviously some different stuff to the table too. I mentioned it with when we talk about qualifying. I think Chris Gabehart loves to run good on Sundays, and he's willing to sacrifice Saturdays to do it. And Chris Gale is maybe a little bit more of a let's put the whole weekend together. And so I give full credit to Chris Gabehart for putting the team together. He's really the one that kind of rejuvenated my career 5 or 6 years ago, and took me from a guy that didn't win a race in 2018 to winning a lot in the next few years, and obviously instilling in me a work ethic and a process that allows me to prepare for each weekend. I finished the driver's meeting and hauled ass back to the bus today because I was like, there's one more thing I need to look at that I just think I might have overlooked. And maybe it was the difference. Maybe not. But I never want to leave any stone unturned. And I'll never compromise, knowing that when I get in, I've done everything that I have to do to go win.
We rarely see you so emotional, and you've talked about the significance of this milestone for a long time now, so I don't think that part is surprising. But did the moment meet the hope or the expectation of actually achieving that goal?
Yes, no doubt. I mean, what you saw, that was going on for the last 3 laps. I mean, I did say a prayer into 3 with 2 to go for no caution. I try not to ask for prayers for things that really don't matter, like competition, but it was just, I needed to see this one through all the way. And so I asked for a favor on this one.
Come to Jonathan next.
Jonathan Field, the Racing Experts. You touched on it a little bit, but kind of just walk us through those final laps and what you were thinking.
I didn't. I need to see it. I have not seen it. I don't remember a whole lot about it. This reminds me a ton of my 2016 Daytona 500, where I didn't do a whole lot of, I had to go back and watch it to figure out what did I do. This was very, very similar. And so I just knew that I needed to make speed. I needed to position myself. I thought that it was going to be a monumental task getting by Larson on the same tires. I hadn't been faster than him in the short run all day. But I just went for it. And, if I wrecked, I wrecked. But you never know when these opportunities will come up again. But I made speed. I found a way to make speed when I needed to, and it's super gratifying.
Also, I know you've been one for big burnouts, but that today was pretty spectacular, especially going into victory lane as well.
Yeah, there was hardly anything left on the tires, and so once I got into victory lane, I want to enjoy this one. I certainly want to celebrate it because I just know how much work it took to get it.
We'll come to Bob next, and then Holly.
Bob Hockers, Fox Sports. I know it's a good thing from a competition and car preparation, but is it a good thing that you have 3 weeks now to stress out about Phoenix instead of just one?
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, I don't get nervous anymore, but I will at some point. It will kick in where it's like, is this my last chance, right, to do it? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but I just know that I'm going to do it, do the work, and I just, I hope it works out. If it doesn't, I'm going to be okay with it. I've had a season that far exceeded what I thought it would. But yeah, I mean, it'll set in. I'll get nervous certainly over the next few weeks about it, but I'm going to be nervous about the things that I control, not the other things. You just, you guys have seen it. There's been weird and crazy things that have kept me from winning a title or advancing to have a chance to. And I've said many times, like, if you get enough chances, like, eventually the tides will turn. And it's like, did they start turning today? Maybe.
Go ahead, Holly.
Congratulations on your win. And my question is kind of that glass half full that you just mentioned, and that is getting the victory here where you didn't necessarily see it coming, starting on pole where you wouldn't have necessarily guessed. What kind of confidence does that actually give you going forward to finish out, not only this round, but maybe give you a kind of confidence that you didn't necessarily have before?
I mean, I think instinctively we all question our ability at times. Even the greatest drivers will always have a moment where they question their ability. But it's days like today that are like huge confidence boost, and like that you can still do it at a really, really, really high level. So it affirms that, and it's a chest out moment that just you get. It's hitting a game winner in basketball, right? I mean, the spotlight was on you. It was your race to win, and you did it. And so they gave me the ball at the end, and I was able to make it.
We'll come to Jerry in the middle, then Dustin.
First off, Jerry Jordan, KickingTheTires.net. Do you think the 7 hours of sim played a part in those closing laps there?
I'm not really sure. Who knows? I mean, I certainly know that one of the things that I ran back and looked at right before I got called into intros was something that played out at the end of that race. So maybe that was it. I don't know. I know the car was fast. I know that me and Chris really talked about track trends, and we talked about all the variables that change from Saturday to Sunday. We prepared for that. We prepared for the end of the race today, and we got through all the other stuff to get to that point. And so when that opportunity came up, and I was able to restart, second or third on those 4 tires. That's what we had worked for. That's what we had prepared for, is that moment, and the car was the best at that moment.
And to follow up on one of the other questions from earlier, have you spoken with your dad yet? And if you did, what did he have to say?
I haven't. No. I saw that he texted me, but that'll be a longer. I'll see him versus that. But that's more of a long, extended conversation. And but when I see him this week, we'll sit down and reminisce.
Go ahead, Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Denny, obviously fathers and sons have had such a significant role in this sport through the years. And, with what you're sharing your story about your dad and all the things that he did with your racing, but also Joe was in here earlier talking about how his son had played an important role in your career with JD. And Joe talking about the greatest sporting event that he's ever experienced was when you won that 2016 Daytona 500. So with all that, what does it mean for a son to be able to have his dad see him back in a championship race and to be able to keep the spirit of JD alive because of JD's influence and importance in your life, and what that means for Joe to take that 11 car back to the championship race?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I never could imagine like going through what Joe has gone through. Yeah, I mean, fathers are not supposed to bury sons. You know, that's kind of the wrong way. But you know, one thing that my dad said to JD a long time ago is that he's yours now. You have to be, you're responsible for him. I got him to this point, but look after him. And and JD was my my road dad, my track dad. And then, when JD passed, it's more of Joe now. I think that father figures are really, really important to make sure you do the right things. They're the ones that kind of keep you in the lane of life. They are your bumpers, and I know that, I do outlandish things and say outlandish things at times, but I always know that eventually I have to answer to the higher power. And on earth here, it's Joe. And so I appreciate that he lets me be me, for one. He never asked me to change, and probably should at times. But, I see him as family. The relationship and the bond is really, really close. And so I just, I'm very, very grateful for what his family has done for me. They allowed me to start a race team. Everything I got, I owe to the Gibbs family. And, I've got two dads. One's at home and one's here. And so I think it's, I'm very, very grateful for that because, not a lot of drivers have that kind of relationship with their team owner, but these guys are the ones that found me and took a chance. And so my loyalty to them runs very, very deep. And his loyalty to me has done, made me feel that way. So it's fantastic that I was able to, Joe was here and Dad's at home watching, and so I certainly love making both of them proud.
And I certainly want to respect your privacy, but when you have that conversation with your father later, that'll be more in depth. What is something that you want to tell him about today?
Just thank him, for sacrificing really his and my mom's life, to chase around my dreams. My parents had no money. My parents had very normal jobs, but they found a way. Now that way is a path I would never recommend anybody taking. It's every credit card that comes through the mail. Okay, we'll use it. Asking people to help, and second and third mortgaging the house, and just all these things. The arguments I had to listen to. I'm in my room, my mom and dad are just going at it. One saying, I can't do it anymore. The other saying, please, just one more week. It's great that it's all paid off, and certainly got the life now that they deserve before I decided to do this.
I know I have a couple questions around the room, so we'll do our best to get to everyone. We're going to come to the middle here, and then over to Lee, and then to Tom.
Mitchell Brewer, Black Hat Sports. Denny, this win ties you with somebody that you competed with a lot throughout your career, Kevin Harvick. Just curious what your thoughts are on that and what it means to be tied with him now.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin's just one of the best. I have a huge amount of respect for Kevin. Just one of the toughest competitors to beat. I mean, I felt like him and Jimmy are like 1 and 1A of like the toughest guys that I had to compete with and against. And, you know, I'm super humbled by it. I think that, you know, Kevin Harvick's probably wildly more talented than what I am. But I just, I never would have imagined that certainly I'd get to this point or position in my career, you know, to be in the names that I'm around now on that list is just, it's wild to me. And, you know, I didn't see anything. All I just kind of did was scroll through my phone to see the names, you know, and like even Martin Truex. I've never heard from Martin Truex. And it's like, you know, he must, yeah, I think they were saying he must have tuned in for Law and Order and just the race happened to be on. That's Tyler's quote, by the way. Yeah, but, you know, Kevin was one of them, you know, that I saw that had reached out. And so, yeah, it's awesome to be on the names of the list and certainly tie Kevin, because I think that, you know, he's one of the sport's greatest, and I got to compete against him. I was very grateful to be able to compete against, you know, some of the sport's best drivers.
We'll go to Reed and then Lee.
Reed Spencer with the NASCAR Wire. Denny, since you brought it up, what was the one thing that you thought you might have overlooked? Had you overlooked it? And do you think it made a difference?
I can't say. But I just have a mental checklist that I go through before I leave the bus for the driver's meeting. I have a mental checklist of checking all the things that I think is going to be important today. And one small thing just kind of slipped through the cracks. Maybe I was distracted. Maybe I don't really know. But I was so antsy during the drivers' meetings, thinking I got to get out of here, because I got to go back to the bus and I got to look at something. And I didn't want. I don't know. It would have just. I don't think I could have. It would have mentally bothered me the entire race had I not gone back and looked, because then I would have said, well, how'd you let that slip? You know, how were you not prepared for this? You know, had you known this, then you would have been in a better position to win. So it's just a weird way that my brain works.
Go ahead, Lee.
Sirius XM NASCAR Radio and catchfence.com. Forgive me if this was asked while I was out of the room, but when the season started, you seemed to be apprehensive about Chris Gale coming on board. You told us that you really had no discussion, which is kind of mind-blowing, given your seniority with the organization, what have you. Looking back on that now, you know, how has your mind changed from January to now?
Well, I mean, I was worried. I mean, Chris Gale's resume was not mind-blowing by any stretch of the imagination, but he also had a lot of young guys that he had to work with, and at the time, I mean, Joe gave me essentially 24 hours to say yes or no to it. And, you know, because Chris had another opportunity with another team in Cup, and that was his option, and had an offer. And he didn't want to get drug around. And so I told Joe essentially, you know, do whatever you think is best. You know, I trusted you in the past, when we've made these kind of decisions, I'll trust you again. And I was worried. And I, you know, when I had those interviews that I talked about him and my apprehension, you know, one of the first conversations I had with him, I says, I don't want you to take that personally, but, you know, this caught me off guard, and I didn't know I was going to be in this position, you know, just a week ago. But I really appreciate his leadership. He pushes me as hard as Gabehart did. I've made it very, very clear to him that regardless of, you know, my accolades or his, you know, he is the leader, and I will respect whatever he tells me to do. I think that's very, very important as a driver, is to give the reins to your leader, which is your crew chief and or comp director, whoever it might be. No one driver is bigger than the team that they drive for, or the person that leads their team. So I wanted to make it very clear to him that you know, he has my respect, he has my confidence, and that do what you see is fit. If you know, do not be afraid to tell me when you think that I need to be fixing something or doing something, and because I can understand why it would be intimidating for someone like him that, you know, Gabehart had a lot of success, and he probably, you know, was nervous whether he was going to get the same out of me that those guys did. But I can confidently say that you know, Gibbs made the right decision in choosing him, giving him, you know, the opportunity with me, and I think it's been a very good mix of you know, kind of our thoughts, and that's why I think we've gotten better as a team as a whole. Is, you know, it's sometimes a fresh new perspective and ideas can teach you something. I think he has.
We'll take our final couple of questions around the room. We'll start with Tom, and then we'll head to Jenna, Kelly, and then over in the back, and Zach.
Denny, hi. Tom Zaleski, Iron County Today. I had noticed when Coach was in here, he mentioned that AM/PM is on the car for only the second time this season, and he was trying to have conversations with them in the winner's circle. Did you participate in those conversations? And this is the first time I've seen you in this gear, but what's the relationship been like with them so far?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously had a big void to fill to start the season. I mean, I don't know how many. I was unsponsored for the bulk of the season. I know that. I think we had this conversation at Bowman Gray. The hauler had no stickers on it. Like, you know, FedEx had left, and you know, they were trying to figure out what they were going to do. And so JGR has done a really good job filling up the schedule. Next year looks really, really good. And you know, yeah, they had these conversations, and I think it's Sonoma was the first race that I had with them. I'm glad they paired it with Las Vegas. Hate for that to be the one sample size that you get from me. I tell all my sponsor as many races as you can, because I need a big sample size. If you pick and choose like 3 races, like it's kind of Russian roulette on whether you're going to get, you know, your value in it. But whenever we have a new sponsor, we make sure that we get their logo up front, and that certainly has been a good return on value for them.
Come to Jenna.
Hey, I asked Joe and Chris this question as well, so don't think it's simply directed at you. You've had a little bit of an interesting month. You've got some things going on, a lawsuit, New Hampshire, the races at Kansas City and Charlotte changed the participants in the field. How do you compartmentalize all that and do your job and just keep showing up and not let any of the noise sidetrack you?
I mean, yeah, the cliche thing that I've said is just thriving in chaos, but you know, the record would show it. There's absolutely a correlation to the more stuff that goes on, the more that you're gonna get out of me in those moments. And so it's really, really hard to do. I mean, I know this week coming up alone, every day is jam stacked and packed with stuff. And I'm really glad now I don't have to worry about concentrating on racing next weekend. I asked before the race, I forget, Gabe Hart came to the car and was like, just win this one. We'll let you take next week off. And I was like, wait a minute, I don't have to show up? Like, he's like, no, you're gonna have to show up, but we'll pardon you for all your work that you got to do. And I was like, okay. So it's a good thing because I got a lot of stuff that's going on this week that I'm glad I'm going to take a mental break from racing for a little bit. That's right.
Come to Kelly.
Denny, I'm just curious, do you think today is the most emotional, or at least visibly emotional, you've ever been in your career? I mean, I don't recall ever seeing tears from you before and getting choked up trying to do the TV interview.
Yeah. I think so. Because it's just, this has been, building for quite some time. When I moved the bar from 50 to 60, I had to stew on that for a few years. When I won the Daytona 500, I'd always hoped to win the Daytona 500. There's a letter that I wrote when I was 8 years old that's in my garage that my mom kept that says, my wish is to win the Daytona 500. I hope that this comes true on February 18th, 1998. I thought when I was 18 years old, I was going to be in Cup for some reason. But there's something about manifesting because I've won it twice on February 18th, the Daytona 500. And so, I don't know, some things are kind of meant to be. And so while that took 30 years to happen, it still wasn't that was just one race. And there were no other implications to it. Right, and the reason this one is more is because of all the things, right? I got the home things. We got the lawsuit things. We've got just the Final Four, the 60. There was just so many other factors that played into today, which is why I think that it's my biggest win. Certainly one that I was absolutely the most excited about.
Okay, so along those same lines, you crossed the finish line and the in-car camera shows that you were already getting tearful. We've seen drivers come back around by the time they get to the TV interview and they start to suppress that or they don't want to show that. Was it just too hard for you to do, or were you going to embrace, this is how I feel, I don't care if I'm going to cry on national television? Yeah,
I don't know. I'm probably softer than what I put off. I maybe shed a tear during a love story on a movie or something. If it's a really emotional moment, I'll never let my kids see it. But I do have feelings. I know it's hard to believe. No. Maybe. But no. I don't know. I just know how much work it took for this to happen. It didn't just happen. It wasn't just luck. It just was so gratifying because of all the things I talked about. And then I had the ball at the very end and made it. That's just, I can't tell you because, I don't know, maybe y'all played recreational sports as a kid and you had that game-winning moment, but it's just so big for me personally because this is what I do, and this is what I'm paid to do, and so it's I don't know. It'll take a few days for it all to sink in, but I knew there was no chance. I was holding it back. No chance. Just let it go.
We'll take our final two questions from the back and in Zach.
Noah Reed, West Coast Sports News. Denny, it feels like this weekend was kind of just the perfect storm to go 11th on poles, 10th in wins, and then to become the first Vegas winner to start from the pole position. But you've also talked about, wanting to be involved with this sport well past your driving days, obviously with 2311. So I'm curious, when you look at this weekend, 15, 20 years down the line, what's going to be the most important part and most memorable from your perspective?
I'm not sure. I don't know where, hopefully 15, 20 years from now, I'm coming in before my driver wins, a significant race. I'm the Joe of the organization. That would be the goal, right? Is to, I knew I wanted to be involved with the sport well beyond my driving days, and obviously took a lot of faith from a lot of people to make that happen. And I love living in the moment right now of my accomplishments, but there'll be a day when I'm just as happy and proud of what I built over there at 2311 as well. So I hope that I can remember how I feel in this moment 15 years from now. That's what I hope.
We'll wrap with Zach.
You said earlier that when you were talking about your relationship with Gale, that no one driver is bigger than the team that they drive for. Is that something that you feel like you had to learn at some point, or is that a mindset that you've had throughout your entire career? Because you've worked with a lot of different crew chiefs at this point. Is that something that you had to learn, or was that something that you've always had?
No, I definitely had to learn it, for sure. I think I got to give credit to Chris Gale for instilling that mindset for me. And what he would always say is that, if I asked Denny to drive backwards for 6 laps during practice, he would just say, okay. He wouldn't ask questions. He would just go do it. And it's because of that relationship that I had with him, that it was a full trust, and that I trust that he has the team's best interests and my best interests at heart. And I realized also that when I broke my back in 2013, those races that I had to sit out and watch from the pit box, I realized pretty quickly that those guys have a lot more information at their fingertips than what I do inside that car. And at that point, too, I started to understand that, let everyone just do their jobs, and I just focus on doing the best I can at my part, and I'll be a whole lot more successful if I work that way. And so, that's why I think it was really important to make sure Gale knew that he was my leader from this point forward. And I think that there's something to be said about that, because now you've emboldened him. You've given him the confidence that I can do this. He trusts me that I'm going to make the right call, the right play, and that he knows that I can provide him what he needs to go win. And then it just snowballs after that, because now he'll have success long after me because of what he learned in our relationship. So, I really want to make everyone around me better because they all make me quite a bit better.
All right, we appreciate you taking the time, Denny.
Thank you.
Congratulations.